Join me in the blanket fort as we venture into the realm of the unknown. This is Painted Ink. So, welcome to the blanket fort, literally. On today's episode, we're talking about the dark, part 2. So, we're going to talk about the origins of the boogeyman. Where does it come from? Where does the word come from, specifically? And I have some answers for you, but I'm not going to make it boring. So let's go. So the word boogeyman comes from the Middle English word buggy or boggy, both of which means frightening specter. So there's also a Scottish link to the word in the Scottish word bogley, which means ghost or hobgoblin. Depending on the culture, this character is amorphous and or shapeless. And of course, we all know these stories are designed to frighten and teach children, or I would say frighten to teach children of the dangers of the world. Normally, these are natural dangers that they're referring to. For example, in the Czech Republic, we have the vodnik, which can change its form to lure humans near and ultimately into water. Or they are based off of real events. So this one's giving a Freddy Krueger vibe. Take, for example, the sack man from Spain in Latin America. So this is basically the skinny on this legend because it's a lot, and I'm going to do a separate video on it. I think it'll be a treat. So the sack man, or El Hombre del Saco, is depicted as an ugly old man who carries children away in a sack, either to sell or eat them. His origins are said to be from the 15th century, but people have also tied this legend to a crime that went on in Spain at the turn of the 20th century. So these are that was just like a drop in the bucket, because believe me, there are more when it comes to folklore and boogeymans. But we're going to go back to the idea that the origins of the boogeyman come from real events. So there's a legend, a ghost story, hailing from the South Carolina Lowcountry. The setting is a place called Rice Hope Plantation, and it involves a sweet little girl by the name of Catherine. So the story goes that Catherine was a carefree little girl who lived with her mother and father, who was a sea captain. So her father unfortunately would pass away, and her mother would remarry a man whom I guess did not want to raise another man's child. So as a result, Catherine was sent away to a boarding school run by the Dutarks. So little Catherine was not accustomed to how strict the Dutarks were, and when it came to their learning style or the way they taught, she I don't want to say she couldn't hang, but she wasn't accustomed to it. So she would often be punished for like the smallest infraction. But little Catherine had a saving grace, something to keep her spirits up, and this was in the form of a pet turtle she'd snuck into the school with her, as pets weren't allowed to, be at the school. So one day, however, that turtle got loose while Catherine was sewing. As a punishment, she was sewing. So panicked, Catherine abandoned her sewing task, and went searching for her beloved turtle. Now, the Dutarks would realize she was missing from the student body, and Mr. Dutark specifically went searching for Catherine. So he would eventually find her along with her turtle, and in anger, Mr. Dutark would drag her to a cemetery at a chapel called Strawberry Chapel, where he would lash or tie her to a tombstone, then proceed to kill the turtle in front of her. And if that wasn't enough, he would, he left her there basically the entire night. So Catherine did try to free herself, as one would, but soon she became exhausted and she passes out. So she would later be discovered by a slave who untied her from the tombstone and alerted the authorities in town, saying that, someone tied this poor little girl to, a tombstone. Crazy. So it's said now that following that ordeal, Catherine was never the same again. I've also heard she went to live a fruitful life, but I don't believe that. People, though, say now in the area, which is Monk's Corner, You can see the ghost of Catherine at her former home, reliving the time she lost as a child. Even creepier, others say you can hear her crying out in the Strawberry Chapel Cemetery. I'm going to tell y'all the story of when I stayed at my aunt's house in St. Louis, and it was clearly haunted. So, my aunt had this beautiful Victorian home that was 102 years old. So, you know, it's seen some things, right? In downtown St. Louis. So, the first night I was there is when all this goes down, right? So, I was staying in my cousin's room. And let me tell y'all the setup of the house. So, you have the first floor, which is where you come in. You go up these beautiful dark wood staircase. You come to the second floor. So this is the floor I was on, with the second floor. So you have my cousin's room on one side, and then there's two rooms. So one was my aunt and uncle's room, and then the second was my other cousin's room. And then, like, in the back, I guess you could say in the back, was the bathroom. So I was laying in bed, and I remember, the first time I woke up, I had left the TV on, and my aunt, I guess she just was weird about having the TV on, so she turned the TV off, and she was like, she let me know, like, hey, I'm just turning the TV off, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, second time I woke up later. Now, let's set the mood, right? So, St. Louis had some serious, severe weather. They had tornadoes in certain places of the city, and they were basically dealing with the residuals of this system that had come through. So, I'm laying there in the bed, and it started to rain, and it was kind of relaxing in a way. But it's like there's thunder off in the distance. And, you know, I remember I woke up because I heard the rain, because the window was open a little bit. And I remember something just told me to look towards the door. The door was open because the house was pretty hot for some reason. I think they had the air turned up or whatever, to where, like, it wouldn't come on as much. But so I turn over. And I look, and I see, like, this, like, black shadow type figure situation sort of gliding past the door. And I was like, the hell is that? I'm like, what the hell is that? So, part of me, because I do have the ability to be skeptical when you need to be, right? So I'm like, that's just my uncle going to the bathroom. So this figure goes towards the bathroom. That's why I say, it's probably one of them. But doesn't come back from the bathroom. So I'm like, okay. And I remember you could not hear the footsteps of whatever this was. Because, my brain is on, like, full rational mode. Like, let's rationalize this mode. I'm like, maybe it's my cousin. She had been out late. Maybe she came in. But, I mean, this house, it was so quiet. You would have heard the front door open and close. You definitely would have heard footsteps. You would have heard all of that. But I did not. So I just lay there, and it's funny when you see something go down like this, you don't really, I don't know, things are running through your mind, and part of you is like, nah, this can't be it. This ain't, nah, this ain't it. And anyway, so I'm laying there. And the thing does not, that's the thing. It did not go into her room. Or what I was, like, telling myself was her, did not go into her room. Like, she never, I think she came the next day, right? So after that, I didn't go to sleep till about 4 that morning. Like it was like 2:00 in the morning when this happened. I did not go to sleep. I just laid there. I couldn't even like get the lady balls to like turn on the light and grab a book. I was just like, no, I'm just gonna lay here. In fact, no, not only did I just lay there, I sort of turned over and covered myself with the blanket, and it was hot as hell. So I'm like laying there, sweating my behind off, because I'm like, I know what I saw. Like it was like, it's what people describe as like blacker than black. So it was like the black around it, the darkness of the house, and then like the darkness of whatever that was. But what's interesting is that it did not feel malevolent. So I think whatever it was somebody that had lived there at some point in its 102 years existing in St. Louis. My aunt no longer lives in that house, and I did bring it up. I brought it up to her at a funeral of all places. We were sitting in the car, and this is how we deal with death in this family. Maybe it's because my grandmother's side of the family, this is my dad's side of the family, owned a mortuary. So we're so close to death, I guess, that we'll just tell ghost stories. And we actually did this at my grandmother's funeral. We told ghost stories about like some just different things that happened to them. But in this case, I told her that story, and she was like, why didn't you say something? And I was like, you're a devout Christian woman. I didn't want to scare you and, make you think your faith is shakeable or whatever. And she was just like, no, you should have told me. But yeah, that's my St. Louis ghost story. I would have another St. Louis ghost story, but I refuse to set foot in the Limp Mansion. Okay, y'all, wait a minute. Let's talk about the Limp Mansion for a little bit. What the flip? Like, the story is, what it is the story is so tragic and yet so creepy, because they all passed away from suicide. So there's like a mental component to this, which is terrifying in itself. While we're on the subjects of boogeymans, mental illness can be a boogeyman. Like, it's amorphous. It doesn't, it's there, but it's not. But I don't know. It's like they were cursed. And you want to know what the curse was, because every last one of them, unalived themselves, killed themselves, and they're still in that house. And also, that house is, I don't know what it is about that particular ghost story, but like, my first time I heard it was on like Travel Channel. Was it? Yeah, and then the second time I was with my cousin from St. Louis. Shout out to Sarah. She was down here during the summer one year, and she was like, oh, the Limp Mansion. And she goes, yeah, that place is creepy. She's like, my dad used to do security work. He was a police officer, and he like on the weekends he would work at the Limp Mansion as this like security for like, they had this like dinner party thing they used to do. And I was like, ugh. And we actually tried to call him and ask him about some ghost stories, but he was like, he didn't have none. But I'm gonna see you all on the next Painted Haint. I'm so sorry that this did not that it took so long for this to come out. But on the next one, we're gonna, honestly, I don't know what we're gonna do on the next one, because I'm still working on my Halloween story, and I want it to be like legit for y'all. I hope y'all enjoy my little blanket for it. I was gonna do like a for reals blanket for it, but that proved to be quite a task. So So I will see you all on the next Painted Haint episode for the Halloween special. I hope that you all enjoy this. And please like and subscribe and leave a comment. What boogeyman stories did y'all have? Because I, per se, didn't have one. My dad was always freaked out about, this is so weird. My dad's such a strange little man from the Midwest. But he always said that it always creeped him out that his closet had no door. And he did not like the fact that he said his closet, it always looked like Abraham Lincoln was standing there. And I was like, that's strange. My mom, as I told you in the last episode, had the green man. So, yeah. Tell me you all's boogeyman. Real or, folkloric, fictional. Whichever one you want to share, if you want to. So again, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on TikTok at HaintBlueRee, and I also have my podcast that features the first episode of this. I want to do a visual. I might actually put in a episode 1 visual for you all. So again, I will see you all later. Love y'all. Bye. And happy Halloween.